I'm your host, Wesley Willis, and you're watching Discover Texas. Today we're on South Padre Island for something a little different. Texas has plenty to offer on land, but with over 3,300 miles of coastline, there's even more to explore and experience underwater. So to do that, we're going to learn how to scuba dive with a little help from Scuba Shack's John McIntyre. Let's get started.
It's time to hit the road and discover Texas with Wesley Willis. Get ready to travel deep into the heart of the Lone Star State, meeting friendly folks and exploring fascinating places. Experience a way of life like nowhere else in the world as we uncover the rich history and culture of Texas. Discover adventure, discover excitement, discover Texas with Wesley Willis.
Since the dawn of time, mankind has been drawn to the ocean. Its irresistible call promising endless depths to explore and countless mysteries to uncover. As tempting as it is to jump right in, the journey of 1,000 miles must begin with a single step, and that step is here, at the Scuba Shack. Run by John McIntyre, the Scuba Shack is the place to learn how to dive. This is something I've always wanted to do. It looks like so much fun, and the certification you earn is recognized around the world. Scuba certification courses take place over 4 or 5 sessions, most of which happen in a swimming pool. The class teaches the basic principles of scuba diving and gives us the knowledge and skills needed to dive safely and confidently. There's a written exam to cover the basics, but the real test will be in open water, off the coast of South Padre Island. After a few introductions, the lesson started. SCUBA is an acronym for Self-Contained Underwater Breathing Apparatus. Created by Jacques Cousteau and Emile Gagnan in 1942, the aqua lung system can be briefly summed up like this. Compressed air is stored in a metal tank, delivered through a hose to a regulator, which reduces its pressure to match that of the surrounding water, making it safe for the diver to inhale. But being able to breathe underwater is just the beginning. When you're diving, you don't want to sink like a stone. You also don't want to get stuck floating at the surface. You want to be able to control your depth so that you can swim where you want. This means you have to control your buoyancy. Buoyancy is an object's ability to float in water. The object's volume and density determine the amount of water it can displace. If the amount of water displaced weighs more than the object, then the object will float. That's why something like a giant metal boat is able to rest on the surface. Though it's a heavy object, it's largely hollow and its mass is spread out over a large area, and that displaces a lot of water. Compare that to an anchor, which has much less metal, but its mass is concentrated into a tiny area, displacing very little water so it sinks quickly. Divers can control their buoyancy with a buoyancy compensator, or BC. This vest is connected to the air tank and inflates and deflates, displacing more or less water, thereby allowing divers to float or sink with the push of a button. Add in a face mask for seeing and some fins for swimming, and we're in business. Speaking of business, before we get into the thick of it, let's start off by asking John McIntyre about how he got into this one.
My name is John McIntyre. I am the owner of the Scuba Shack in McAllen, Texas.
And go ahead and tell us about how you got started with scuba diving.
I got started scuba diving I took it as a PE class up at Texas A&M and got certified, and then after that I actually got hired on at a research facility called the Offshore Technology Research Center there on A&M's campus, and was diving for them for about 2 years and went up in the ranks from a basic scuba diver to a dive master.
Wow. So how long have you been scuba diving?
I've been scuba diving for 29 years now.
Wow. So what is it about it that keeps you involved and keeps you going?
Oh, just the awesome marine life that you see. Like each trip that we go out is an adventure. Last year we went offshore and we saw whale sharks. A couple of years ago we were visited by a school of hammerheads for about 2 weeks. They were out there on the Texas Clipper, one of the dive sites that we dive on out at South Padre.
And how many places have you been diving before?
Wow, that's a big question after 29 years of diving.
Pretty
much all over around the world. That's a tough one. Been into the Bahamas, Hawaii, Bonaire, Cozumel, Belize, a little bit everywhere. And what's interesting is each region has its own type of coral, marine life. So each region is different, and in its own aspect.
Do you have one place that stands out in particular?
I would probably say Palau and Yap in the South Pacific is one of my favorite, just because the large marine life that's there, the big schools of sharks, big schools of jacks, and just big fish and just cobalt blue water. It's just awesome.
Wow, it sounds beautiful. I want to go. And what's the deepest you've gone? What depth?
The deepest I've gone was 140 feet. We did that at the Blue Hole in Belize. That's where the stalactites and stalagmites start. So if you want to go see them, you have to go down to that depth.
What do you think is one of the biggest misconceptions when it comes to scuba diving?
That it's dangerous, just like any sport. Yes, there are hazards and dangers involved, but as long as you learn all the aspects and principles, physics and physiology of diving, then it can be a safe sport and is a safe sport, as long as you follow those guidelines.
And then to get certified, what are the steps that the students need to take in order to get certified?
To get certified, just classroom work, and we do the pool work, and once they're comfortable in the pool, then we take them offshore and do the offshore dives. And as long as they demonstrate good skills and they are comfortable in the water, no apprehension, and then they're able to get their certification.
And that's what we're here to learn. Most of the class covered what could go wrong and how to deal with it quickly and calmly. After all, if you're in the middle of the ocean, the last thing you want to do is panic. No pressure. Well, actually, the deeper you dive, the greater the pressure gets. This can affect the body in a couple of different ways. The first way you'll probably notice is a slight discomfort or pain in your ears. The human ear wasn't designed to take the quick changes in pressure that happen when you're diving. The pressure from the outer ear forces the eardrum up against those delicate bones in the middle ear. To keep those bones from being squashed, we can force air into the eustachian tubes and balance the pressure. This is called equalizing. Equalizing your ears is pretty easy. You simply pinch your nose and gently blow. This is something divers have to do often during a dive.
Your body is affected by pressure in other ways. This can manifest as decompression sickness. The air you breathe is mostly nitrogen. When you dive deep, the pressure squeezes that nitrogen into your blood and tissues, which is pretty harmless. But when you come back up, there's less pressure. So the nitrogen molecules expand and, well, you get the picture.
Dive tables help you keep track of how much nitrogen is in your blood. Nitrogen builds up every time you dive, and it builds up faster the deeper you go. These tables allow you to plan the number of dives you can safely take in a given time and help determine how far down you can go each time.
As divers make their way back to the surface, they make decompression stops for a few minutes to ease the pressure slowly.
These stops usually occur with very deep dives at given intervals for a few minutes each. But even with a recreational dive, it's a good idea to take a safety stop at 15 to 20 feet for 3 to 5 minutes. All these tables and stops seem like a lot of numbers to wrap your head around, but once you get the hang of it, it's actually kind of easy.
While we let all that math process, it's time to take our lessons to the pool, so stay with us.
Hold on to your hat. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. After learning all we could in the classroom, it was time for the pool sessions. For that, we moved over to Banworth Park in Mission, Texas. The first task was simple enough. Prove we could handle ourselves in the water by completing a couple of laps in the pool. Pretty easy, right? Okay, so maybe some of us aren't exactly part mermaid. That's not a problem because we're using fins for the next part. They make swimming so much easier. Seeing where you're going is also important, so we'll be putting on a face mask. Face masks are notorious for fogging up, making it difficult to see anything. Luckily, there's a quick fix for this.
So when you're barely under the water, lift up the top of your mask. You probably don't want a bunch of water, so just put a little bit of water and then squish it around just to clear your lenses. Then when you're underneath, just lift the bottom and apply pressure to the top. Well, you don't even need to lift the bottom. Just apply pressure and blow out through your nose. When you do that, it'll clear.
Here's how it works.
Clear. See? No water.
You might be wondering why I'm using a snorkel. If we're going to be using air tanks, what's the point, right? Well, snorkels help to conserve the air in your tank when you're swimming on the surface, and they can keep you from taking in mouthfuls of water if you have to wait around for your dive boat or for rescue. Now that we've got our equipment sorted out, it's time to learn how to properly enter the water. Since we'll be diving off a boat, we're focusing our effort on 2 entry methods, the giant stride and the back roll. Just for practice, we'll use the snorkel in place of a regulator. The giant stride is the most straightforward method. Just walk up to the edge of the platform, hold your mask and regulator in place, and take one big step into the water. Of course, smaller boats might not have a platform. This is where the back roll comes in handy. Sit on the edge of the boat, secure your mask and regulator with one hand while tucking in your chin, then fall backward. Looks fun. Let me give it a try. Why achieve when you can overachieve? Once we're in the water, we don't want to just hang out above the waves. Surface dives, like the kelp dive and pike dive, quickly propel your body down to where the fish are. We finished the first session by going over a few different swimming techniques. These different strokes use different sets of muscles and could come in handy if cramping occurs or if fatigue starts to set in. The next 2 sessions focused on the skills that would keep us safe during a dive. We started day 2 by familiarizing ourselves with the equipment. John made sure we knew how to assemble and prepare our own gear.
There should be a male clip on there, and then on the left side of your BC, there's a female clip. Attach those up. Now remember, why do we do that?
One of the trickier parts of scuba diving is maintaining neutral buoyancy. After all, you want to see the coral on the ocean floor, not crash land on it. It's important to learn how to control the amount of air in your BC. Too much air and you'll bob like a cork. Too little air, you'll sink. Let's try that again. Practice makes perfect. Always remember to equalize. If you get really tangled up, you might have no other choice than to remove your gear. You've got to do this quickly and calmly, and you must be able to put everything back on. Deflate your BC, unclip your chest and belly clips, and undo the Velcro band. Remember to keep your weight belt on. The final lesson was the most important. Everybody has a dive buddy to keep them safe. But what happens if your buddy runs out of air? For just that situation, the scuba gear comes equipped with a second regulator. You have to grab hold of your buddy's vest and place your spare regulator into your buddy's mouth. Since you are both breathing out of the same tank now, you've got to surface as soon as possible.
If someone's interested and they're a little apprehensive, they're a little scared, what are some tips you'd give them?
Just a lot of practice in the pool. The more time you spend in the pool, your comfort level increases. And I've had pool sessions before with one person. It's taken them 8 pool sessions before they got over that apprehensiveness and got into that where they were more comfortable to be able to go offshore and do the open water dives.
Have you had anybody that you've taken offshore and they just cannot get off the boat?
Oh, yes. Sometimes there's, the unknown that people are a little afraid of. I've had a lady one time that did perfect in the pool, no apprehension, and we got offshore and she said, nope, I'm not going. I said, just jump in the water. It was a beautiful day, 100-foot visibility, a lot of marine life. And I said, get in the water. If you don't like it, I will help you out. She said, no, John, I am not going. So I said, all right, I can't force them to go. So
yeah, has to be at their own pace.
Right? Have to be at their own pace and their own willingness.
Have you had any students that have struggled during a pool session but surprise you out in the ocean?
Yes, like I said, you know, the more that we practice in the pool, we've had a few that have struggled, but after a few more pool sessions and getting them over any obstacles that they have excelled in open water. You know, and again, once they see the marine life and everything, it all just kind of calms down a little bit. You know.
We practiced all of these lessons until we felt confident and comfortable underwater. Once we were sure of ourselves, it was time for our test at the island. The Gulf of Mexico awaits when we come back.
Hold on to your hat. We'll be right back.
The big day was finally here. We met at the boat early in the morning and set off toward the abandoned oil rigs known by local divers as the Iron Reefs. Everyone was in a good mood as we said goodbye to land. The water was calm and excitement was in the air. Just 90 minutes away, we test all the skills and knowledge we developed over the past couple of weeks. The boat ride gave me plenty of time to think about what was ahead. Out here, there would be no pool walls to cling to, no bottom to stop me from falling. If anything went wrong, I'd have to rely on these 6 people to know what they were doing. More than that, they'd have to rely on me. I was up to the challenge. Honestly, it felt kind of thrilling. Before I knew it, the oil rigs were visible on the horizon. John raised the dive flag, letting any boats nearby know that there were divers in the water and to steer clear. While he did that, the assistant instructor ran a safety line from the boat to the rig, 30 feet down. It was time to suit up. I was eager to get down there, so I volunteered to be first. But if I'm being honest, I was also feeling a little seasick. Being in the middle of the ocean, I couldn't help but feel very, very tiny. The blue seemed to go on forever. It was strange knowing that there was an entire world of life down there just beyond my vision. Except for that jellyfish. Him, I could see clearly. There would be time for exploring later. This dive was about testing our skills. The others jumped in and John started the exam. We went over our basic skills. Everything went smoothly, and by the end we emerged victorious. Victorious, but exhausted. There was only one way to take care of that.
Resting.
Yeah.
We're all tired. Resting, hydrating, and then going back out.
After we regained our energy, we were ready for our second dive. This time we would follow the line all the way down to 30 feet. I could feel the pressure building as we descended. We were only 20 feet down, but the surface seemed miles away. At last, we reached the end of the line. The oil rig seemed so massive up close. John called me over for a better look. The steel was covered in coral, creating a variety of colors, making this oil rig home to so many different kinds of fish. As tempting as it was to stay, the pressure gauge said it was time to make our way back up. And one last note, wetsuits get super heavy after a dive. I had a really great time earning my fins, but after a long day of travel and exploring under the sea, it was time to get back to civilization. It went okay. It went well. As I gave the oil rigs one last look, I felt a real sense of accomplishment. Scuba diving is something I'd wanted to try for a long time, and I finally took the plunge and went for it. Now that I have my certification, I can dive anywhere in the world.
I had such a blast. I can't wait to get out there and do some more exploring. I want to thank Captain John and all my fellow divers. If you're ever in the Rio Grande Valley and looking for some adventure, be sure to stop by the Scuba Shack. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you under the sea. Thanks for watching. I hope you really enjoyed the show. And if you did, be sure to click the like button, share our content, and subscribe to our channel. And while you're at it, check out our Discover Texas Facebook page.